All right, everyone, welcome. How is everyone doing today? Posting the recording, or the live stream, I should say. Very good. All right, just a minute here, and then we'll get started. Everyone hear me okay? Good, good. Hey, Ultra, hey, Center. I'm doing okay. I've been sick the past few days, and it's really starting to catch up to me in terms of just feeling tired. Just a cold, not COVID, but you can probably hear it in my voice, maybe. Hey, Burner, what's up? Yeah. Hey, T1, welcome. Nothing a couple of cups of tea can't fix, right? Tad low, okay. Yeah, I'll try to move closer to my microphone. I think that's it. My voice is a bit on the low side. Okay. Well, good. We don't have too many questions in stage questions, but I do have a lot of information to go over. It always amazes me how much the team is able to accomplish 1 week at a time, and it doesn't necessarily feel like much, but then when you sit down and talk about it all, my goodness, it adds up quick. So first and foremost, these AMAs, yes, unfortunately, or maybe fortunately for some people, it's going to be an hour earlier for folks who are not affected by daylight savings time. Maybe I can try and figure out a fix for that in the future. But then we would be pretty much stuck at the 11 p.m. UTC all the time. So, oh, thanks, Oxy. Yeah, so I'm not sure if you guys prefer that we kind of switch back and forth here. Maybe that's confusing, but it also allows us to have a bit of an earlier time slot for at least half the year. So I think that's a benefit, but of course, it's open to the community if we want to keep things 11 p.m. UTC, we could do that. Also, again, I apologize for the YouTube recording last session. The audio was not recording, and I got verification from Oxy that stream looks and sounds good, and I am looking at my audio recording and I see that it is recording. So I apologize for that last time, but we'll get started here. Ultra, when fix DST? What do you mean by DST? Yes, when fix daylight savings time? Great question. Wonderful, wonderful question. All right. So I guess the first announcement I have is that the Spear Community Poker Tournament is this Saturday, the 18th. So please remember to register. It is free, 100% free, and there are prizes for the first, second, and third place. So head on in, test your skill, test your luck, and see if you can win some Sphere. All right. Next up is the USDC Depeg. Holy smokes, guys. I know I lost quite a bit of sleep on that. I don't know if anyone else lost some sleep on that. But USDC has pretty swiftly returned just under peg. I think last I saw it, it was like 0.995 or something. So check out the video I made about this topic that was released this Monday if you're interested. But the long and short of it is that Silicon Valley Bank, or SVB, basically experienced a bank run when they declared a $2 billion deficit on their balance sheet due to needing to sell old treasury bonds at a loss because they were declining in value due to the rising interest rates of new bonds. So it kind of requires an understanding of the bond market there. But the long and short of it is they had about a $2 billion deficit. Everyone freaked out. Everyone started withdrawing. There was a bank run. They didn't have the funds immediately available. So the FDIC had to step in. USDC's Circle had about $3.3 billion in reserves held in SVB that were then frozen. And that created panic, of course, and a liquidity crunch in DeFi because it was over the weekend. All just dominoes, everything kind of like a Swiss cheese model, if y'all are familiar with that, all just leading to USDC's Depeg. Oxy chilling in the mountains. Nice. That would have been the good place to be, just to kind of miss it all. Because the FDIC swiftly stepped in and bailed out all of SVB's depositors, including Circle. So that this is where regulation can be extremely helpful and potentially life-saving. So USDC remains fully collateralized. Not a penny was lost. Still, this sent a very big shockwave through crypto, and in my opinion, was a truly historical event. So, despite the DPEG, the Sphere Treasury actually earned profits because we held our conviction on USDC and provided liquidity for USDC, earning yield as the peg regained over time. There was a massive spike in volume, of course, as everyone was leaving their positions, liquidating to go into other stable coins or into other tokens in general. So naturally, that created a lot of swap volume, swap fees, and we were primed to take advantage of that. And in fact, due to that high volume with the DPEG, we made around 1% in yield in stables in one day from our multi-sigs position. If you think about that, 1% in stable yield in one day is crazy insane. Very stressful hiccup, as Ultra mentioned. Credit Suisse plays out. They're slowly decoupling from the banks. I think crypto held up very well indeed. Yeah, crypto did held up quite well despite that. And I think it really calls, I'm in the stage chat right now reading through some comments. I think it really speaks to the need for fully decentralized stablecoins, may or may not be coming with Prion. All right. Ultra. Now I have the ropes for a while. Okay. All right. I see another question coming up in stage questions. We'll get there. But first, a few more things I'd like to go through. I have a lot of things to go through today. It's actually kind of crazy. We are aware of the user interface and other minor bugs in Dyson. So for example, when TVL does not load properly, or when you have difficulty loading in the pools, or when the APY does not display correctly, these are all display issues, also known as UI or user interface issues, and these do not affect the underlying assets. But we want Dyson to be as user and beginner friendly as possible. And obviously these types of issues can be very off-putting, especially to newcomers. So the team is working on fixes to these issues as quickly as possible. And as always, once these updates are live, if you do run into any further problems, please let us know so that we can address them. But hopefully these updates will address the majority of these issues. Again, we want Dyson to be very user-friendly, very beginner-friendly, because we are offering these capital-efficient processes, these capital-efficient vaults. We want people to easily be able to use them. The whole point, right? So we do listen to all your feedback and continue to value it. And any and all issues that come forward are added to a log so that we can prioritize and address them over time. All right. Back in stage chat, LP Burner, when Sphere Twitter Spaces. Yeah, I know this has been considered. Right now, there's no plans to do that. This has been the major setting, for example, for these community AMAs. But it's still a thought that we can consider. Crypto RY, someone asked in chat, how are Sphere burning tokens? Couldn't answer in percent as if... Oh, someone asked in chat, and then you wanted the full answer. Okay, yeah, so Ultra linked an announcement, but currently burning is on hold because all of the yield that we're able to provide to Spherians is going to YL Sphere, because we want to be able to boost the yield for Spherians who are willing to yield lock their tokens. But there are different thoughts on how to and plans for reintegrating burns in the future. Very good. Okay. Just to piggyback on what I mentioned with Dyson, I don't know if you noticed, but the team also updated the visual design of the transaction pender, for those of you who noticed. So that is good. Back in chat center, I just asked my first question, but now I have another. Priyan is going to have a stable coin, and that's known. Yep. However, will it only be a stablecoin pegged to USD, or will we possibly get coins pegged to other currencies in the future? Right now, it's going to be pegged to USD. That's kind of the standard in the crypto space at this time. In terms of different possibilities, there really isn't much that we won't consider, especially if you throw it into the Sphere ideas or Dyson ideas or eventually the Prion ideas. Right. So these are things that we can always consider and see if it's worth integrating, how it could benefit, how much interest there might be, these sorts of, because then we have to dedicate time to building that, right? Whereas, where else could that time be best placed? So that's another thought as well. Yeah. LP Burner, we know Twitter Spaces can be very helpful. Getting people involved. We certainly have different avenues for partnerships, getting people interested, getting people involved, and potentially that could be something we use. But no plans as of right now. All right. Next kind of topic I have is that the 14th Pi Day marked the anniversary of Sphere, which is pretty cool. So in celebration, we will start gathering beta testers for Sphere Lend. As a refresher, Sphere Lend is a zero-interest lending borrowing platform with unique capital-efficient dynamics. So lenders will offer stablecoins, and then borrowers will deposit volatiles such as Matic as collateral. Now, while deposited, the collateral can be yield farmed by Sphere Lend, and a portion of the yield will go to the Sphere Treasury, and the rest will go to the stablecoin lenders. So what that does is provide stablecoin lenders with volatile yields. And not only that, but because the borrowers have to over-collateralize their loans, it actually creates a scenario where you have a greater value of collateral, of volatile collateral, yield farming for a smaller value of stablecoins. So that's going to provide even further yield for the lenders. SphereLend is going to be built within Sphere itself and without its own token, similar to how Dyson has been built. All right. Sinner, yeah, I understand there's a time benefit factor. I just want to know, I know a lot of people who don't have much faith in USD, but the future will put into Prion ideas when that's possible. Yeah. I think, this is pure speculation opinion, but and we're really already seeing it, but I think there's going to be a very large restructuring of finance in general. I mean, it already basically is happening with DeFi, with crypto. We're already seeing that. So I think that type of restructuring is only going to continue in the near future. But that's just my opinion. So we will see. But I don't think you're alone, Sinner, in having that thought. Yes. So time will tell. And again, if it's something that becomes, also, I do think that as more countries become better integrated with crypto, we will see more of these other countries introducing, what are they called? The CBDCs. I do think we'll see more of those. And then, of course, that introduces a lot more potential for that to enter into the DeFi space as well. But just, my thoughts, my speculation. Crypto RY in stage chat. How do we get involved in Sphere Lend beta testing? So it's all kind of the same, right? As before with Dyson's beta testing. Be active. The fact that you're here shows us that you're an active community member. Continue participating in chat, express your interest, help people answering questions. That's the kind of the type of feedback that we're going to want to see through the beta testers. People who are active, involved, interested, willing to help. What else can I say, right? That's someone who we're going to want to have on the beta testing team. Yeah, and Ultra, thanks for answering that as well. Team Clara and Dora, kind of a win question in stage chat. I'm guessing that Preon was coming before Sphere Lend, but I am assuming now that Sphere Lend is launching first. All I can say is per the announcements, which is that we are starting to open up beta testing for Sphere Lend. Otherwise, it's a one question, and I cannot answer one questions. Good. Ultra Spank, very good, very nice. Okay. All right, so I covered that. So next I wanted to cover our liquid wrapper solution, which has been doing very well. It's proving itself to be one of the strongest liquid wrapper solutions in DeFi, with one of the strongest pegs. DeFi Wars, that website, is actually a really good resource if you want to kind of explore the different pegs available within these different protocols. And as you will quickly find out, a lot of them are really struggling to maintain peg. So our solution is kind of groundbreaking. And since inception, our SP Sliz and SP STR wrappers have stayed at the greater than 95% peg average, and recently have both been over 98% peg, which is really good to see. It's a very strong peg. So these peg percentages, as I mentioned, can always be checked on DeFi Wars. It's like Investopedia for me. I'm fascinated by it. I always check it and look into it. But that's just my nerdy fascination. But I invite you guys to look into that as well. You can check on, how Dyson is doing in terms of its percent accumulation over the project, and you can check on the peg percentage as well. So that peg strength is actually due to our auto compounding Dyson vaults of the peg LPs themselves. So using Solid Lizard as an example, the SP Sliz LP is going to earn Sliz emissions thanks to Dyson's VE Sliz voting power voting on that pool. So those Sliz emissions are then paired with SP Sliz to compound into the LP, right? That's how an auto compounder works. But Dyson is going to automatically calculate whether SP Sliz is above or below peg within a certain threshold. And if it is above peg, it will mint new SP Sliz to combine it into the compounding LP. And if SP Sliz is below peg, it's going to use the Sliz that it needs to swap for SP Sliz on the market, adding buyer pressure to SP Sliz and selling pressure to Sliz to help bring the peg together. So those same prompts, either minting or swapping, are also given to users looking to obtain SP Sliz as well on Dyson. So this dynamic allows the peg to stay very strong as it has been. And then remember too that as a liquid solution, Dyson is taking all the risk of vote locking these governance tokens so that the users can remain fully liquid and still earn amplified yield. So it's just a really cool solution. And in essence, it's quite simple. And that's why it works so well. All right. And in fact, as you've noticed with the announcement today, our liquid wrapper solution is catching the attention of other projects organically. So just today, Dyson's partnership with Kronos was announced. Kronos is a community-driven liquidity layer and automated market maker coming to Arbitrum, which I think is a fancy way of saying VE33 DEX, but I'm not entirely sure because I looked into Kronos and the amount of information they have right now is a bit limited. It seems they're still, gearing up for launch. But either way, Dyson's receiving a partner VECHR NFT. And also, which hasn't happened yet, but is happening with Chronos, is that some Spherians, some of you guys will be lucky receivers of CHR token airdrops. So that's pretty cool. So stay tuned for that. And yeah, totally agree. Organic growth is the best. People are noticing that this works, and they're interested in it for their projects because it benefits their projects as well. So, and then of course Dyson will be creating a liquid wrapper for VECHR called SPCHR, very similar to Solid Blizzard, Sterling, and Satin Exchange. All right, I'll take a brief pause here to catch my breath and also take a look at stage chat. Any immediate questions in stage chat before I continue? Yeah, actually, that's a really good point, Partisan. In stage chat, I have airdrop PTSD from last spring. Please, 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 for the love of God, just pay attention to the announcements for this airdrop. Please do not fall for any scams. You know, whenever we hear and think of airdrops, we do think of scammers, which is good. That is a good response because it does happen all the time. You know, if you're getting a direct message from anybody talking about airdrops, 99.99% chance it is a scam. So please just report it. We have our scam report in our Discord here. The airdrops, more information about the airdrops will come in time through the announcements. So please just be patient and be on the lookout for that. And it's for all Spherians. So we will let you know how to get involved, how to become eligible, all of these things, and when in due time. But please be aware of people trying to game the system and take advantage of you and take your hard-earned cash. Ethan, will Sphere join the Balancer Wars directly, not just through Tattoo Holdings? Technically, it already has, right? Because the Sphere Wmatic, can't talk. The Sphere Wmatic BPT is already earning Balancer emissions. So, you know, the Sphere Treasury can do one of two things with that. Number one, it can just sell those for profit, or it can start accumulating BAL tokens to then increase its governance over Balancer, which is very good for a number of reasons, right? Still in stage chat. Okay. Well, good. Very good. Nice little detour. So then I'll get back to our announcements. So our Satin Exchange partnership is coming soon. Actually, per Satin's Discord, they plan to launch on March 30th. And I plan to release a video summarizing the AMA that Sim had with Satin Exchange for this Friday. But still, as a quick recap, Satin Exchange uses the Cash token, which is a yield-bearing stablecoin, and that will be leveraged on Satin to bring multiple benefits. Satin Exchange is a VE33 DEX, so I think most of us are pretty familiar with that at this point. But with the Cash token, there's a few things that happens. First of all, you have a growing collateral with the Cash token, meaning that you can have increasing collateral for the same amount of circulating supply of cash, just providing more yield, more capital efficiency for cash holders. And then Cash's integration into Satin comes with several benefits, such that liquidity providers who use LPs with Cash will continue to earn cash rebases, but then also a portion of those cash rebases go to auto-bribe the LP to help bring in more votes for that LP. Naturally, Sphere will be making, or Dyson, I should say, will be making a liquid wrapper. But the unique thing about Satin is they are going to use the LP governance model, where instead of just locking Satin for VE Satin, you will have to lock the Satin Cash LP for VE Satin. And that, of course, deepens liquidity for Satin, and helps price stability. What else? So yeah, so SP Satin then will be the Dyson's locked version of the Satin Cash LP. So you would have to make the Satin Cash LP, deposit it into Dyson, receive the SP Satin, or simply buy SP Satin from the liquidity pool. What else? Sphere, of course, will be adding liquidity to Satin Dex to yield farm. And then our Lovematic, LFmatic, will be complementary to Satin because it's also a rebasing type token. I don't think I missed much else on here. We've talked about it before. I covered it before, and I'll post a video on Friday. Just one more thing is that much like the other dexes, as Dyson's voting power grows, eventually you can start using that voting power to also vote on bribe optimized pools with high bribes, and then those bribes can then be forwarded to Dyson's vaults to further increase the yield. So there's a lot of benefits to having these liquid wrappers for Dyson and for users of Dyson's vaults. Thinner will SP Satin release on our end on the same day as release for them. Honestly, I don't know for certain, but I would imagine so. If not on the same day, then I would imagine pretty similar or pretty soon after. But I don't know specifically, sorry. But yes, as Partisan mentioned, any partner boosting our TVL is more than welcome. It helps them, right? That's kind of the point of Dyson, is that we can craft these yield farming solutions that are beneficial to everyone involved. It's not just like a mercenary liquidity type pool where we want to take everything out of a protocol. We want to help sustain their protocol as well. All right, mentioned it. Let me just go back in stage chat. Ethan, you mentioned about Sphere and Balancer, so I just wanted to touch on that as well. So our protocol-owned liquidity of the 80 Sphere 20 Wmatic on Balancer continues to earn around 50% APR in BAL token emissions and swap fees, which is kind of mind-blowing. And it will continue to do so for a very long time, thanks to Sphere's de facto governance over Balancer through Tetu. We also do plan to release auto-compounded vaults, Balancer vaults on Dyson soon, so that others can take advantage of this high yield as well. Of course, you can also create your own Sphere Wmatic BPT if you so choose on Balancer and earn those rewards as an APR. And I did make a video tutorial on that if you need help or assistance with it. So ultimately, this gives users two options for how to earn on their Sphere tokens, with YL Sphere and then with Sphere's LP. Both function to remove Sphere from circulation, and the LP, of course, will deepen liquidity for swaps and encourage price stability. So yeah, kind of we're about 30 minutes in, and I've only I've finished going through all those announcements that I wanted to cover, but it just always blows my mind how much there is to actually cover on a weekly basis. So I do have a few stage chat questions to start getting into, but before we do that, just like earlier, I'll take a brief pause, see if there are any immediate questions in stage chat. I see nobody typing nothing. So I think I will move on to stage questions. Hey, take care, crypto. Indeed, indeed. Well, thanks for being here. All right, I'm going to hop over to stage questions, and we'll kind of hop back and forth. So, like I said, not too many questions this week, but a few good ones. So, first is from NSX Maniac. How do you see the value growing in the SP Sliz Vault pool? All I see is my deposit slowly decreasing. So, changes in the value of your SP Sliz LP will be most directly correlated to changes in the price of Sliz. Sliz saw an initial massive pump in its price after launch in late January. If you check the price chart, however, ever since mid-February, it has been seeing a price correction, the aftermath of the pump, basically. And as the price of Sliz fluctuates, so too will your deposited value. SP Sliz has been able to keep peg very well with Sliz, and is currently at over 99% peg, which again blows my mind. So the dynamics of SP Sliz and Sliz are working as intended, and the pool is receiving amplified emissions thanks to Dyson's VE Sliz voting on that pool within Solid Lizard. So again, everything is working as intended. With regard to compounding interest, even when the yield is high, it does still take time to snowball and start making a significant and exponential impact. So as that is all happening, you always have to pay attention to the actual price fluctuation of Sliz itself, because SP Sliz being 99% pegged to Sliz, the entire LP will change in value relative to the value of Sliz. So that is something to be aware of and keep a lookout for. All right, let me hop back to stage chat. Oh, very good. Oh, okay. All right, so YL Stellar Drone has a one question with 4 parts, aka 4 questions. So number one, what are the steps being taken to increase Dyson TVL in the short to medium term? My question for you is, why not include long term? No, okay. Well, unfortunately, the past week we saw the Depeg of USDC all the way down below 88 cents. So that was a nearly cataclysmic event in the crypto space, as many other projects rely on USDC's peg, including other stablecoins, and so naturally it created a lot of panic. USDT was pushed all the way up to almost $1.03, and leverage traders, of course, jumped in to try and take advantage of the Depeg in both directions, pushing the volatility even further. So with a good chunk of Dyson strategies using USDC, it really is no surprise that many people pulled their assets out as a precaution. The underlying strategies are still sound, and as we know, the reserves of USDC are still sound as well, but it just may take some time for people to fully regain confidence in USDC, and in turn deposit back into those same strategies with USDC exposure. So it's not particularly surprising, the response to that Depeg. It is what it is. But those who did maintain conviction earned quite a lot of swap fees through Uniswap. So that's the positive side to it. But also, unfortunately, people did lose a significant portion if they were selling as the Depeg happened. So there's always pros and cons to these types of events. All right. When Solid Lizard, question number 2 within the question, when Solid Lizard came out of, I'm sorry. What are the efforts being put forward to get adoption of our products by the mainstream DeFi? So, when Solid Lizard came out of nowhere really and spiked in TVL, the team pretty quickly reached out to see how we could work together to create Dyson strategies that were mutually beneficial. And in just the span of a few days, we were able to build and launch multiple strategies to serve Solid Lizard users. So think about that, right? In a matter of days, we were able to connect with Solid Lizard, build and launch solutions that were beneficial to Solid Lizard, Solid Lizard's investors, and of course Dyson. So no amount of marketing can replace that actual true utility and benefit to users. That is where the organic growth comes from, because people, there's word of mouth. That's the organic growth that we can't underappreciate, I suppose. With that being said, we have a significant amount of marketing planned, of course, and we are in the process of building as well, all these different things. And then other protocols are catching news of our liquid wrapper solutions, as I mentioned, and as I can see. So we already have two other protocols lined up to use our solution, that being Kronos and Satin. So the news is indeed spreading organically as well. All right, to number 3 of the question, how has the progress been since the marketing AMA? So all I can say is that it has progressed. So for example, take a look at all the Dyson partnerships already popping up within the span of just a few weeks of Dyson's launch. All right. And then number 4, how much monthly revenue is being generated and any plans to fix the dashboard that displays the data? So I have a bit to say about this. So I don't have any updates for you on monthly revenue at this time, but the yield we are able to funnel to YL Sphere should be a good indicator of the general health of the treasury. And then remember that these details really can be always checked publicly via the blockchain. You just have to sit down and do it, which I did not, I'm sorry. As you all have access to the contract addresses. But Multifarm is responsible for the data displayed on the Treasury dashboard, so it does fall on them to provide as accurate data as possible. But also, please recognize that the Sphere Treasury moves fast when it needs to, and so it can be very difficult for Multifarm to keep up. We've certainly kept them busy, and we've been busy as well. So we will always need to kind of prioritize what needs updating first, and what could use an update to improve the UI UX for a certain aspect of Sphere. But in general, ideas like this are good and should be posted in Sphere Ideas to kind of involve the rest of the community in the discussion and keep us informed as to your interest in what you'd like to see on the Treasury dashboard. Now, in thinking about this question, I also realized you may have been talking about Dyson instead of the Sphere Treasury in general. So when it comes to Dyson, there have been other issues that needed fixing. So for example, the TVL, APY display issues I mentioned earlier, and those sorts of issues will take precedence because, again, this is being built for a user-friendly experience, and seeing the TVL of a pool or a vault suddenly drop to 0, even though in the background things are totally fine, can be very off-putting for a beginner. So certain things take priority, but again, please drop this type of suggestion into Dyson Ideas for the same reasons, right? We can get the rest of the community involved, helps us stay informed as to your interests and also what updates you'd like to see. So overall, good questions. And I don't see anything in stage chat, so I will move on to the next stage question, which is by Crypto Apu. Uniswap is now live on BNB. Do you plan any farms? It can be attractive to people. So I actually did see that Sim had Crypto APU had put this question in the general chat, and Sim had replied with yes, indeed. So there are plans to add farms on BNB. Basically, there are many potential use cases for Dyson. And we have a lot of great plans for how to expand Dyson's reach throughout DeFi to create capital efficiency for as many users as possible. So like I kind of mentioned earlier, there isn't necessarily anything that is completely off the table. We want to be open. We want to be able to consider all of our different options. And, obviously going cross-chain was always the intention for Dyson. Ever since the beginning, we've called it a multi-chain yield maximizer. So we definitely want to bring things cross-chain. All right, we're still good in stage chat. So Sinner, you had mentioned partner in Dyson recently announced breakdown of who they are and what they do. And you did mention I mentioned that or answered that already, but just to reiterate, I did look at Kronos, their Medium articles, and it's not entirely clear exactly how their tokenomics will work quite yet, but it does seem that there are another VE33 decks that will be launching on Arbitrum. I think they plan for some unique twists that they will be taking, but that's all I know at this time. But I imagine when the time is right, I'll be doing a video on them, just as I did for Sterling, Solid Blizzard, and then pretty soon Satin Exchange, which I'll post on Friday. So in time, we'll see. They have to release more information as well, Kronos themselves. All right. Well, we are on the last question for now, which is by Good Vibes Only. Which conditions have to be met for the team to release V3? So this is a pretty interesting question. And initially when I saw this, I was thinking, well, market conditions, and that's pretty hard to answer. But in general, what other conditions have to be met? And I'm just trying to kind of think back generally, VE Sphere is a voting governance model for Sphere. So what we first need to do is build up Sphere's governance power and give people a reason to want to use Sphere to vote, right? that's kind of the point. And the way that we're building Dyson and the liquid market, of course, we are starting to accumulate that governance power such that when V3 is released, that voting will mean something. But ultimately, we have to build up that voting power. And Covenant will be able to play a good role in that, because Covenant is basically like a Craigslist for bribing and voting, as Sim had mentioned in one of the tweets. So that will play a core part as well. So we need to see a lot of these other elements built first before it then even makes sense to transition to Sphere V3, which again, at its core, is a governance model. So you need to build up that governance first before it makes sense to transition there. But that's a really good question. Yeah, Center Governance info. Sim had tweeted about that. It was what would he title it? It was like the reasons that I am bullish on Sphere. And I think it was like a couple of weeks ago now at this point that Sim posted that Twitter post. So yeah. All right. I am patting myself on the back for making some pretty good time on all that information. We're just at about the 45-minute mark. I've gone through all the announcements I wanted to make and talk about, and we are through all of the stage questions. So that just brings us back to stage chat. If anyone has any additional thoughts, questions, comments, I'll be happy to answer. Nothing? Man. This time change is throwing everyone off. I also get the sense like the general energy in the chats has changed. I'm not sure what that means, of course, but and I could be completely off, but it just feels that the general energy has changed a bit. So that's been interesting to witness. Whatever that might mean, I do not know. All right, see a couple people typing. Bedtime, yeah. Sorry for it being so late. Thank you, I appreciate that, and good night to you as well. Um, Zartang, any bridge building plans? Um, so to speak, to have our own bridge? I don't have any information I can give on that at this time. Build one. I will get right on that, sir. I will learn how to code. I will jump on the dev team and I will get that started ASAP for you. Yeah, that is a big problem with bridges. As Partisan mentioned, they do get exploited quite frequently. Sinner mentioned change for the better. It's not Ammonium or Hopium Boys. We're seeing so many releases, so it's not so many hyped when. Yeah, yeah. There's more kind of reality setting in, and starting to see all these things go in place is really cool. Um, and continuing to see all these Lego pieces fall into place is going to be awesome. So good. Well, let's just give it another minute or so to see if you guys can think of anything or have any issues or questions, and then we'll probably wrap up a bit early for today. One thing we are doing, Zartang, is building bridges between people. Mm-hmm. And partnerships. Hey, that this is where my mental clarity is right now. Just for yeah, exactly. Just for a frame of reference for y'all. Oh, very good. Well, enjoy your dinner, Oxy. All right, Gara. I've been away for a longer time from Sphere Eco. Is it still a strategy to just hold Sphere V2, which might later get airdropped to V3 governance token, which will rise in price potentially? Well, there's a few things I need to break down about this question. So first and foremost, simply holding a token is indeed a strategy. There's technically nothing wrong with that. There's two other things you can do with Sphere right now. Number one is you can lock it into Sphere, as the bot kindly showed us, into YL Sphere, but you do have to lock it for a period of 4 months. However, in doing so, you earn blue chip tokens at a variable APR. The other thing you can do is add to Sphere's liquidity on Balancer, and that does not require any time locks, and currently the APR is around 50%. It is an 80-20 Sphere W-Matic LP, so there is the impermanent loss is a reality, but even so, that's another thing that you can do with your Sphere. So to clarify, with the transition to Sphere v3, the Sphere token will essentially remain the same. It's not going to get, it's not like you're going to get airdropped into the governance token. With Sphere v3, the 80 Sphere 20 W-Matic LP will need to be vote locked into VE Sphere, and then at that point, VE Sphere will have governance, receive yield, potentially have the ability to earn bribes, that sort of thing. So I hope I kind of broke that down for you, Gara, because it's a little different than what you're suggesting in your question. Right. Yeah. So, as Berner pointed out, if you're hesitant to lock your Sphere tokens, for example, if you're worried you may need to sell some, liquidate some, you want to stay liquid, you'll be able to, you can simply provide liquidity with Sphere and earn yield that way. Eventually, as we've mentioned, but you may not be aware of this, Gara, is that just like how Sphere is releasing these liquid wrappers for Solid Lizard, for Sterling, for Satin, now for Kronos, um, I'm sorry, did I say Sphere Lend? The liquid markets. Dyson will also release a liquid wrapper for VE Sphere. So if even at that point with Sphere V3, you don't want to vote lock your Sphere Wmatic LP, what you could do is deposit it into the Dyson SP Sphere Vault and get the liquid wrapper solution. But again, this Sphere V3 is still a good ways away, right? As for the reasons that I just recently mentioned, there's a lot that still needs to be built to kind of maximize the value of Sphere V3, to have it make sense to actually release Sphere V3 before we can do that. All right, Gara, I don't want any liquidity farming anymore. I'm just interested if Sphere V3 governance has the potential of becoming MakerDAO of Polygon. I suppose that's a speculative thought, so I can't really say much on that. But so then I later need to lock that to VE Sphere, or might the demand of Sphere on open market be enough to price increase because other people want to lock the Sphere to VE Sphere to gain governance power? Right. So that's the general idea. Is that as more and more is built into the Sphere ecosystem, the goal is that the Sphere token becomes more and more scarce because more and more people would be interested in taking Sphere and vote locking it either as YL Sphere or into VE Sphere once we get to that point. But again, that's further down the road. So just strictly speaking right now, as more and more is built into the ecosystem, that means more and more value for Sphere. So potentially, yes, that can mean a price appreciation of Sphere itself. So again, that is a strategy to simply hold Sphere. You won't earn any yield on it by just holding it, but you could potentially benefit from the price appreciation. Just standard caveats of it's a volatile token. It can go up in value or down in value. All of that thing, hashtag NFA. These are all strategies, potential strategies, and you kind of have to decide for yourself what would be best for you. Great question. I think it's a very valid question. Absolutely. I'm glad my rambling made sense. Okay. Well, we're about 55 minutes in, so why don't we wrap up there? If you guys do think of any other questions, feel free to leave them in the hashtag stage questions. We'll get to them next week. Of course, you can always also post in the Sphere chat and Dyson chat. Ask for help from the mods. They're here to help. We're here to help. So please ask your questions away, and we'll do what we can if we don't know the answer to get back to you, and or just give you a generic thune. I'll leave it at that. So absolutely, absolutely. I'm happy to be here. Very happy to be here. I'm glad you guys are here too. It means a lot that to have you guys here and engage. So thank you, thank you. Yeah, see, thank you. Actually, yeah, it does offer some benefits. It's a bit earlier for most people, so that is good. Unfortunately, in about half a year, we will experience the other end of that, but that is a problem for later us. All right. So with that, thank you all so much for being here. always remember that you truly do matter for who you are. And I will see you all next week. Take care. Have a great rest of your day. And until then, bye bye.